Alright, so we've talked about the pre-release banner, the Lost Belt 1 banner, but now we have to talk about the main reason most of the player base is hyped about Lost Belt 4, and that is the second banner that is scheduled to drop in just a few days. And it's not Karna getting a raid up, it's not Asclepius with all of his healing, it's not even Asphatama throwing around big flaming donuts. It's the main new 5-star that's coming out, the king, the god of the game, Arjuna Altar. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about not whether or not you should summon for Arjuna Altar, but why you should be summoning for him. Because every so often we do get servants like this that are just downright broken and just super easy to just have them dominate the entire game. And Arjuna Altar is one of those servants. You might see people in the comments go like, well, I mean, I have Raiko, so I'm fine. No, they're wrong, okay? Arjuna Altar is an absolute just force in the game of FGO. Unparalleled by his berserker colleagues. Just wherever you bring him, death and destruction follows, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. Now, if you enjoy FGO content, I upload these videos every single day, and all I ask for in return is a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel. Although, if you're feeling super extra feisty and you really like what I do, you can click that join button and become a channel member. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this. Let's talk about Arjuna Altar. Which, it's funny, a servant that's so busted and broken, when you start looking at his hits, the opening act for the servant, you don't see anything particularly crazy. The only thing that really stands out is that he's almost got a flat 1% NP gen, which is really high. But then he's only got 2 hits on the 1 arts card, so sure, if you get a crit on that, you'll gen a metric ton of NP. But you will need to get crits on that to kind of get the refund going for his NP. He's got a triple buster deck, which is going to contribute to a lot of the damage Arjuna Altar's doing, but nothing here really stands out. You have 4 hits on the 1 quick card, but he's only got 5% star gen, so you're really not dropping a whole lot of stars with that. He's got 4 hits on the extra attack, so you could get a little bit of extra NP from that, but again, not really going to be dropping a whole lot of stars because his star gen is so low. Because his buster hits are so high, you might be able to pull off some Skahat tactics, where you're able to put the arts card in front of the buster cards, and because the buster hits are so high, not only can you get some nice arts gen from, like, say, an arts crit, but those buster hits, because they have decent hits, can also gen a decent bit of NP back, and his NP gen is already so high, they actually can gen a little bit of extra NP, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to opt to just go for buster brave chains, you know, red equals dead, especially with how Arjuna Altar works. And with that being said, we're going to start getting into his skills, because while his hits aren't super impressive, the main thing you should take away looking at his hits is, alright, I get a crit on the arts card, and I basically refund my NP. But then you look at his skills, and they're all designed to do one thing: have this man kill everybody and everything in sight, and just keep him around so he can keep murdering everyone. There's not a whole lot of servants, by the way, that I say that their method of survivability is just killing everybody. Like, who needs hardline survivability when you kill everybody? Because most servants can't output that level of DPS to realistically just kill everybody off before they get knocked out by an NP or a big crit. But Arjuna Altar does output that much DPS, and it's in the first skill that you see why he just does so much damage, because he's giving himself a 30% attack buff for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. So again, uptime is very high on this skill, but it's the second effect here. He's getting a 50% bonus damage modification against enemies with a debuff. And that is the secret right there. That's why this guy does so much damage. Spoiler alert, his NP has a debuff that activates first. So then he's getting the extra damage from that debuff, then being multiplied into the attack buff, then into the special damage mod, and he just does Gafoogle's amount of damage. One of the funny things is that you would want to run him with Merlin so he could do like really big buster crits, and you know, Merlin kind of helps him gen his NP a little bit and provide stars. But one of the characters I almost run Arjuna Altar with as kind of like a test on JP was Scotty, ironically enough, because Scotty has that defense debuff that she can also slap on people, and she gives him 50% NP, so you can kind of just keep looping his NP. Although that would require you to have some K-scope action going on, maybe a Waver and a Reigns on the side to kind of give him an extra 50% NP. But if you just want to use Arjuna Alter to kill anything, and you know, just have him be your 3-turn farmer, you can get it done as long as you have the high-end tools to allow him to do so. But the main point is, this is why Arjuna Alter does so much damage, is because this skill is already providing just redonkulous amounts of damage for him. And then his NP has the activates first effect for his own debuff. So as long as his debuff goes through, you're going to be hitting really, really hard. And although that is the one weakness of Arjuna Alter, is that if you don't get your debuff on your NP to stick, because say they have magic resistance or goddess core that gives them a really high innate debuff resistance, they can whiff the buff, and then his damage plummets severely, because a lot of that again is coming from this 50% extra damage from debuffed enemies. And that's why I do like to bring people like say Scotty to just lower defense to kind of give me an extra line of debuff to kind of help out. Plus the lower defense is really going to help him out. You could still use someone like Merlin because his second skill lowers their critical attack chance, and I do believe that counts as a debuff on them. So really, just get something to stick on your enemies and you'll blow them up and they just won't even survive. It's GG at that point. But let's not forget, fellas, that he has 2 other skills. His second skill increases the star weight of all of his buster cards by a really high amount. Like usually you see like these star weight skills and it's like, okay, here's like 500%, 1000%. Dude, he's getting 6,000% to his buster cards. That's like, we want this dude to do big buster crits. So they gave him massive star weight. Granted, he is a berserker and he did need it, but it's still insane the amount of star weight they slapped on this dude. And then this also functions as a 30% battery. So even though Arjuna Alter can gen his NP pretty well as long as you're getting arts crits, they're like, you know what, let's just give him a little extra help. Let's give him a little helping hand by giving him a 30% battery to help him out. And again, putting it on a 5-turn cooldown. So when you're not using him in farming nodes and you're using him to fight challenge quests, the uptime for him being able to do big busty buster crits is going to be super high. And then he's also going to be able to gen his NP back, which I do like that they tied these together because you're going to be drawing the stars to your buster cards, meaning they're not going to your arts cards. So as recompense for that, they're giving you a battery on that same skill to kind of make up for the fact that you're not going to be getting arts crits. Although do keep in mind it doesn't exactly equal out because you can gen a metric ton of NP on your arts crits, especially if you have somebody in the party that's buffing his NP gen or his arts cards. But I understand the design philosophy with this skill. I understand why they did it. It makes a lot of sense. And again, already seeing a very, very well built servant, and it's got a nice little bow put on it with his third skill, which is a guts that lasts for 3 turns, and also for those same 3 turns, he's getting an additional 2k HP back every single turn. He also doesn't have the random bad guts where he revives with 1 HP and then just gets hit once and dies anyway. What this is supposed to do is it's supposed to give him a guts that brings him back with an acceptable amount of HP, and then he starts healing after that as well, so that way he can kind of get it to another level to where he can actually take a hit or two and not just die immediately. This is doubly effective if you're running him with someone like Merlin, especially like double Merlin, who can buy him 2 extra turns with his second skill to just let Arjuna Alter heal back up while Merlin is also trying to heal him as well. So again, you look at Arjuna Alter already and you're like, dude, he fits in with so many different servants. You could do the Scotty route because she'll just feed him metric tons of NP and she's contributing to his damage while not giving him really anything with the quick buff. Her lowering their defense counts as a debuff and it adds to his damage, and can be really useful for say like a wave 3, because usually wave 1 and 2 there's no enemies that are going to whiff your buffs. It's usually enemies that have like no innate debuff resistance, but that last enemy is usually some type of servant that may or may not have debuff resistance because they're like a saber or again like a goddess character that has goddess core, and so she can kind of help guarantee that you'll get that buff with her defense lowering skill. But again, you could still use him with Merlin because Merlin does the same thing with his second skill with the critical attack chance demerit that he slaps on all enemies. So again, it's like his niche is so good because all he needs is for the enemy to be debuffed, which I guess we'll talk about his NP right now. He already does on his NP. It's so simple. Deals damage to all enemies, reduces their buster resistance by 20 to 60% for 3 turns depending on overcharge, and then wham, activates first, meaning he gets that big 50% debuff attack buff that he has on his first skill. Everything else that I've been suggesting is just if you want to be really cautious and kind of not have to worry about that whiffing, because again, enemies with built-in magic resistance or high levels, like the goddess characters that have 50 to 70% sometimes, they are probably going to whiff that. There's a coin flip chance, if not higher, that they're going to whiff that buff, and then you're losing out on a lot of damage. And that is the only weakness of Arjuna Alter, because everything else he's got on lockdown. If you look at his hits, it's tailored to him doing big buster crit damage, and then he can pretty much almost refund his NP with a good arts crit. Again, mileage will vary depending on what buffs you have on him at the time. I've had some very good experience using him on JP, where I'll just get fat loads of NP back if I can get an arts crit, and I've also had some bad experience where he's had no buffs and he's not hitting somebody like a caster, because if you didn't know, casters actually allow you to gen the most NP back, so it's really good to hit them with your arts cards, because then you refund more NP than say a berserker. So do at least keep that in mind, that mileage will vary. If you're I didn't refund 60% NP with my arts crit, it's okay, well, check who you're fighting and see if you actually have any buffs on your Arjuna Alter, because it might be on you and not on him. But then they even gave him a battery to kind of make up for the fact that you want to be doing big buster crits, so they're well, if you're not going to get to do arts crits all that often, because you're predominantly going to be absorbing all the stars to your buster cards, we're going to give him a 30% battery, which is really solid. Fat attack buff with one of the easier special damage types to get, because you can just slap it on whoever you want, paired with very decent survivability, makes Arjuna Alter basically a borderline must summon. Really, the only people that are not going to summon for Arjuna Alter are going to be a lot of the contrarian people, who I'm going to see in the comments that are going to say oh, well, I don't think he's all that good, or man, I got Raiko or something. No, you're just flat out wrong. I'm sorry. I don't usually come out here and say that people are wrong, but this dude is crazy. It's understandable if you want to use somebody say, Zhang Yu, or you want to use Raiko as your AoE berserker. That's perfectly fine if you prefer them because you like their characters more, but they just don't compete. They're just not even in the same tier as this guy. He's absolutely crazy. And understand that he had to be this crazy because we're in the quick meta. A lot of you are just NA players that don't remember JP, but when Scotty came out on JP, Buster and Arts teams basically died out, because it was you're running quick to be as efficient as possible, and if you're not doing that, you either didn't have Scotty, or again, you're just kind of being weird and you're well, I don't want to use Scotty because I don't want to fall in line with the meta, which is understandable. I get that there's those people that don't want to be meta, quote unquote. They just want to use what they want to use. But 90% of the player base was using double Scotty, so they're man, if we're going to make Arjuna Alter a Buster servant, he has to be cracked out of his mind, and he definitely fulfilled on that. Do understand that he's not just going to be a servant that you summon and you never use. We're going to get a quest in Battle in New York, I believe it's in the rerun for the Guild Fest, where you have to fight the Gorgon sisters, and they have mad crazy buster resistance, and Arjuna Alter still 3 turns them or whatever, because his extra card is still so powerful after slapping debuffs on them, and then that doesn't protect them from his arts and his quick card, so he just does redonkulous amount of damage. He's just absolutely crazy. Challenge quests, farming, whatever you need him to do, he will fulfill that role very, very well. Again, the only reason I could possibly see you for not wanting to summon is if you read Lost Belt 4 and you're I hate Arjuna Alter, I think he's a bum. And then understandably, you wouldn't want him in your box if you absolutely hate his character. I completely understand that there are servants that I don't want in my box because I absolutely hate them. But then 2 is if you really want to save up for the summer servants, because I know summer servants bring a lot of your waifus, a lot of the characters that, are people's favorites, like Summer Jean, you're getting Summer Bibi, Ruler Artoria, Berserker Musashi is also very, very popular as well. I can understand wanting to skip Arjuna Alter because you really, really want to summon for your waifu in a hot swimsuit. That I can understand. If there's a servant that it's your favorite in the game and you really, really want them, then go ahead and summon for that. Because at the end of the day, while Arjuna Alter is one of the best servants in the game, if you're going to be happier, even summoning Ryder Carmilla, if she's your favorite servant, then go ahead and summon for that. Because at the end of the day, while Arjuna Alter is one of the best servants in the game, if you're going to be happier, even summoning Ryder Carmilla, if she's your favorite servant, then go ahead and summon for that. Because at the end of the day, while Arjuna Alter is one of the best servants in the game, if you're going to be happier, even summoning Ryder Carmilla, then go summon for her. If that's going to make you more happy, then I would say go for that. Because at the end of the day, you're supposed to be playing this game for fun, and if you're not having fun, then why are you playing at the end of the day? So that's going to be my end of this TED Talk. Thank you guys for coming out. I know this has been a video that people have been begging me to do, and I was like, no, just wait until he's about to go on Raid Up, and I'll drop my videos. It'll be nuts. All right, let me see those thoughts in the comments down below. This is actually one, I have a Discord down in the description. I will box people up on people saying that Arjuna Alter is bad. Like, I'll be sitting in the Discord, you come in there, you ping me. I'll probably have some hub in the name because of the other channel. You come in there, we'll box, dude. I'll fight everybody on the Arjuna Alter stuff, all right? I'm here to defend this man to the death. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice week and have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.